Welcome back. Welcome back to another Beeline to Passports. My name is Joe Batista. I'm your host. And tonight we have a special guest. This special guest, he is a dentist, also a wrestler, actor, producer, and director. Tonight we have Dr. Jim McDowell. Jim, welcome to Beeline to Passports.
Great to be here. I'm having an identity crisis. Am I Dr. Jimmy McDowell, the golden boy, or am I the golden boy, Dr. Jimmy McDowell? I've been a dentist a lot longer than I've been a wrestler, so I'm going to go with Dr. Jimmy Mac first.
All right. Jimmy, like every week, we ask our guests how everything started. We want to know how your career started and also, your education, your childhood, well, everything. We want to know everything since you born.
Great. I grew up in the beautiful state of Arkansas in the middle of the United States, a very Midwestern state. My parents came from a town of 304 called Havana, Arkansas. People don't realize Arkansas was inhabited, obviously after the 1800s, and we have towns named after Stuttgart, after England, after London, after Paris, and my parents happened to be born in Havana, Arkansas. And even though I was raised in the city, I come from very, humble beginning because my mom and dad came from the country of country. In a town of 304, there was not much to do, and they looked to go to the big city, and the big city near them was 2,000.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I have the privilege to have Mr. Bjorn Backman here.
Yeah.
And we talk about, he is from Norway, and he talked about when he was on the interview, then his whole town in the whole area, it was 5,000 people.
Right.
To come to the Metro Orlando,
Right.
that is, wow. It's a big difference.
Yeah, I've worked with Bjorn before, and he's a funny character, so we probably have some same similarities. The cool thing about it is, I go back to my mom and dad. You could take the boy out of the country,
Okay.
but you can't take the country out of the boy. So my mom and dad had me 9 months after they got married, and I was one of those honeymoon babies, and grew up with a sister that was 2 years younger in the big city the capital of Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas. And every time we went back, it was just a breath of fresh air to get away from the city, get back to the mountains. People don't realize in Arkansas, there are the Ozark Mountains, are the tallest mountains between the Appalachians and the Rockies. So, beautiful hunting, beautiful fishing, the get back to nature, and the mountains are huge. Mount Magazine was one of our favorite places to go to as a child, but growing up in the city and attaching to the country was, something in my heart. It was something that I go back to this day to Arkansas.
Awesome. And now regarding your education, you're a dentist, and I love your slogan, dentist during the day, wrestler, professional wrestler at night.
Right.
Now, the part of the education, you went to high school. Everything was in Arkansas.
Everything in Arkansas except a dental school. Arkansas doesn't have a dental school, so they farm us out to. I was accepted to 5 different. Most kids in Florida only get to go to University of Florida because
Yes.
they don't go out of state unless it's a private school. I was accepted to WashU in St. Louis,
Okay.
UKC in Kansas City, New Orleans, Memphis, and Baylor in Texas. So I had a chance of going to 5 different dental schools. And growing up in Arkansas, I wanted to be a more of a cosmetic dentist. I didn't want to do dentures. I didn't want to specialize in old people dentistry. I wanted the cool cosmetic stuff of the day.
Okay.
And that's why I chose New Orleans. New Orleans LSU Dental School was probably the top cosmetic dental school at the time, and that's why I chose there.
Awesome. And now you moved from Arkansas, out of Arkansas. Now you start seeing the world.
Absolutely.
Because now you can see, well, we were 3,000 people. Now it's many people in the
Right.
same school, probably, and not only the same school, around the town, and you start learning culture.
Absolutely.
Because now you have people from different states, people from different countries probably going to the same school and having the opportunity to learn about the culture, and believe that help you to get knowledge, and not only the part of the knowledge, to be more, getting more social and
Absolutely.
understand more the world.
Some of the instructors at LSU were from Montreal,
Wow.
from Egypt, from the islands, and they came to New Orleans because they were the best of the best in their area, and so they wanted to come and teach us. And by the time that I left LSU Dental School, I knew that I had the education to move to a place. My dental practice of 30 years was in Jupiter, Florida. Jupiter Island, Palm Beach, had the ability to be with so many amazing NFL athletes, PGA athletes, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, Hall of Famers that are patients of mine because they trusted the background that I developed dentally at LSU. I wanted to be a dentist from the time I was 6 years old.
Wow.
I wanted to be a dentist. The summer of my 6-year-old summer, I spent 10 weeks every week. I had some baby teeth that needed some dental problems fixed, and every time I went in, the dentist said, "When you're a dentist." And I'm leaning back as a patient. When you're a dentist, you'll remember how to do this. And I kept thinking about that. At 6 years old, I knew I wanted to be a dentist. But at 7 years old, I went to a wrestling match. My mom took me to a wrestling match, and I got knocked out of the ring. I was up getting an autograph. Where back in the day, you could be on the ring apron, and I was getting a autograph from Ringo Starr, and he was wrestling a huge Russian, Mikita Malkovich at the time. And the Russian got mad at the American star, Ringo Starr, and he came and knocked me out of the ring, knocked Ringo Starr into me. I'm 7 years old and I got knocked out of the ring, and I was hooked for life. I knew at some point I'd be a dentist and a wrestler.
Wow.
Yeah.
But basically, that was your call.
It was my calling.
Wow. Yeah. That's a great story right there. And to today's date, and we're going to talk about that in this show. All these wrestling matches that you have around the world.
Absolutely.
Because you've been traveling also around the world. Let's take this first commercial break, and when we come back, we will continue talking about your story. We're going to talk about, projects that you have been involved in the last 5 years, today's projects, and many other stories that you want to bring to the audience. But let's take this first commercial break, and we'll be right back with more of Mr. Dentist, wrestler, and actor, Dr. Jim McDowell, here in Beeline to Passports on GKI Radio.
The Golden Boy.
We are back. We are back from commercial break. Great music. You're listening GKI Radio. My name is Joe Batista. I'm the host of Beeline to Passports every Monday at 8 p.m. here in your station. And tonight we have a special guest. This special guest, he's a dentist, also an actor, producer, wrestler, and director. Tonight we have Dr. Jim McDowell. Jim, in the first segment, we were talking about your story from Arkansas to get to the college and the story. Then you went to a wrestling match and you have your calling right there. Then you want to combine your dream from 6 years old to be a dentist and the 7 years old to become a professional wrestler. Tell us a little bit more about that story. When you start practicing to become a professional wrestler?
Okay. During dental school, I was a youth director at a church.
Okay.
And we needed in New Orleans, which there was not a lot of holy, wonderful things to do at night. There's Mardi Gras, there's a place to go get drunk. But as a youth director at a church, you don't take kids to those places. So one of the things that really appealed to me was going to wrestling matches. So I would pick kids up on Monday night. We'd go to University of New Orleans. We go downtown to the Superdome. And again, I'm not in wrestling yet. And I'm indoctrinating them. I'm helping them to have a fun time in life, a wholesome time, by being in the wrestling crowd. Fast forward, I graduated at LSU Dental School, went to Jupiter, Tequesta, Florida, opened a dental practice there in 1988. Man, I'm telling my age right off the bat. So in 1988, I left New Orleans, got to Jupiter, opened a medical dental practice. And in 1991, 3 years later, my wife at the time, we had twin daughters, and I knew that I needed to focus on dentistry. But I'm still a big guy. I'm probably 300 plus pounds. I'm down to 230 now, but I'm at 310, 315. And I meet Vince McMahon and George the Animal Steel.
Wow.
In West Palm Beach. And they knew I was a dentist. They knew that at the time I was looking to getting into dentistry. They knew I was the right size, the right shape, the right calling, but I could only give them I had to work. I had to work as a dentist. I knew that was my game. I'm not an imposter syndrome in anything in dentistry. I can do all phases of dentistry today, as in the past and the future. But with wrestling, I knew that I had to be something that I had never been before. So I sold myself right off the bat, and they bought it. They wanted me to go full time, and it was not the right time. 1991, I could only give them, Wednesday night, Thursday through Sunday. And back in that day, if you know the wrestlers of the 90s, the huge era of the 90s, we're looking at full time.
Yes, 7 days a week, and sometimes double shows during the Saturdays or Sundays.
Right.
Yes.
So I gave them some ideas. One of the first things they used was I.B. Yankum, and who was the Undertaker's brother in wrestling. They used him to be Kane. They used Kane as a dentist, probably one of the worst portrayals of a dentist in the history of the world. I love you, Kane. But he's this big, huge monstrosity of a guy, and his name was, Dr. I.B. Yankum. And it was an idea that I gave, George Steele and Vince, and within 3 or 4 months, they had started using that idea. Fast forward to 20 years later, I'm the first dentist that is now a professional wrestler in the United States. Everybody knows the AEW previous female heavyweight champion is Dr. Brittany Baker.
Yes.
And she's a second. She's the first female dentist but I was the first dentist in America to be a professional wrestler also. So being part of a profession of dentistry where there's only 180,000 dentists in the whole United States, wrestlers, there's a whole lot less than that. And I felt a little bit like an imposter. I'm a big guy. Mm-hmm. I'm working through all my training. and getting to the point where I feel comfortable, but always, even to this day, I'll walk into the locker room and I'm like, do I fit? But I sell. I mean, my persona sells, my gimmick sells, my life sells. And I have a story that's unique. And I have to understand that I have something that most people don't have. So I'm not an imposter anymore. People want to be like me. And
Wow.
that's a cool thing. That's a very, very
Awesome.
cool thing.
Awesome. Yes. And for people, um, my previous life, I used to do some work for the WWE,
That's right.
and I met many of them, amazing people. People then they basically teach you, and you learn a lot from them. And as a human beings, they've been doing the show to bring happiness to the people that goes for the fans that goes to the different events, and many of them, Kane or Glenn,
Right.
real name, yeah.
Right.
He's a mayor, and doing many other things to help their community as well.
He's a mayor in Tennessee right now.
In Tennessee, yes. And other people, they always don't want to talk about that part, but they always been involved for nonprofit organizations, helping people to achieve their goals or move forward in life as well. Now, going back to that era, 1990s, there was the era. Then, everybody was looking and watching the WWF. Then they changed the name to the WWF. Today's day, WWE. But that era, that was huge because the arenas, they were packed.
Absolutely.
And there was in around the United States and out of the United States in certain countries. Today's day, they export that to places like Saudi Arabia,
Absolutely.
and Africa, and India. They also have talents. They brought talents from that countries as well. They've been stars in the WWE. I am from the Caribbean. You be in the Caribbean.
Right.
You wrestler. You did some wrestling matches in the Caribbean as well. And you seen the world. And again, that kid, 7 years old, that they have that calling and that point, and past all these years, how you as a person, you start thinking, wow, I dreamed this, but now I'm living this. Question is, how Dr. Jim McDowell was in that period of time, and also how was the family support. And I bring all this because in the audience, sometimes we have people, they have a dream to be an actor, producer, model, musician, and something they don't feel that they have the support of the family.
Right.
How Jim, when was on that stage, professional wrestler, but also a doctor, how was the support from the family?
None, absolutely none. My mom was a huge wrestling fan, and she was the only one who took me. She's the Midwestern mom, stay at home, cook, beautiful, Christian lady. My dad was a civil engineer, so everything's black and white.
Yes.
We grew up playing football. We grew up playing baseball. We got, no basketball because that was for tall people. I'm 6'1", never get taller. But the thing about football, it's a physical sport. And so after getting out and having a family, I knew there was a time that I needed to become a dentist and I needed to work on my practice. And I just knew that I couldn't, go into the frivolous area of professional wrestling. So once I became a wrestler and became a little bit more noticed, sadly, my mom and dad passed about 10 years ago. My mom would be on the front row of every match, guaranteed right now. My dad would be like, he would be there to support me, but it wouldn't be that fun relationship.
Okay.
When we hunted, we had great connection time. When we went fishing and camping, we had great connection time. But that was the engineer of him. Everything's black and white. As a dentist, I operate in the area of gray. Wrestling is very arts. It's
Mm-hmm.
sports. It's athletic, but it's who can become their persona. A recent relationship of mine, am I too much my persona?
Wow.
I don't know.
Wow.
So that's why I lit off. I'm a dentist, professional wrestler, or I'm a professional wrestler and I'm a dentist. All my patients know that I'm going to be showing them my first picture. I'm not showing them of a beautiful dental case I did. I'm showing them a picture of a movie that I just did, or a wrestling match I just had, or my new gear. The patients want to see the shine. They want to see the glitz. They want to see the glamour. They want to see the glory. They could care less about my dentistry. They know I'm going to make them smile. I do dentistry in my sleep. Wrestling, I still worry about.
Yes, and that's why they changed the name from the federation to the entertainment.
Absolutely.
Because becoming entertainment.
In 2020, that happened.
That's
sometime
right.
year 2000.
Year
went
2000.
to the New York Boxing Federation, and they had to have either entertainment or a doctor at every match, and they chose to be entertainment.
That's right. That's right, and that is great because when you go to these matches, and you see in front of the camera, but also behind the scene, like we have the opportunity to be behind the scene and seeing everything that is behind the scene. That is a multi-million dollar
Absolutely.
entertainment night, from fireworks, from the lights, sound, everything.
Yeah.
Everything. That's a multi-million dollar event.
Were you living here when WrestleMania was in Orlando?
Yes.
They built this amazing, in the end zone, they built this amazing roller coaster that absolutely was supposed to work, but they couldn't get it with the right fund. Not they had the right funding, but they couldn't get the right permits. So they built this beautiful roller coaster and they never used it. But it's such a big show
Yes.
that they had to do something over the top. They did it. It failed, but nobody knows because that was amazzy. That was the first time that Undertaker retired.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And in every day, then they do an event. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Going there and see it. There can be what is called the dark matches. You can go and see dark matches, or you can go and see SmackDown or the NXT now or the Raw.
Right.
Hey, and it's amazing.
We have to mention AEW now too.
Yes.
We do have to. Do we have a competitor out there?
Yes, and that we're gonna talk about that competitors when we come back, because we want to know certain changes that brought to the wrestling organizations. But let's take this short commercial break, and when we come back, we will continue talking about Mr. Wrestler, Doctor, Actor, Producer, Director, Dr. Jim McDowell. And we're going to take this short commercial break, but remember to drop a comment or question if you would like to hear them on the show. The number is 407-476-9059. Remember to say my name, Joe Batista, followed by your name, your comment or question, and you could also hear here in Beeline to Passports on GKI Radio. We are back. We are back from commercial break. Great music. You're listening GKI Radio. My name is Joe Batista. I'm your host on the Beeline to Passports every Monday at 8 p.m. here on your radio station GKI. Tonight we have a special guest. This special guest, he is a wrestler, dentist, actor, producer, and director. His name is Dr. Jim McDowell. Jim, we
Woo!
have we left some information here about the competitors, but I want to go back a little bit further. When there was an era on the wrestling, there was a competitor by that time, ECW.
Absolutely.
And also, there was a lot of independent circles. Then these independent wrestling schools, they were feeding several. They were feeding the ECW. They were feeding the WWF and many other organizations around.
I've just been noticing I'm missing a phone call right now from the Masked Saint, professional wrestler, pastor, had a movie done about himself, Chris Whaley, but I'll get back to him in a little bit. But the interesting thing about the wrestling from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the NWA, the WCW, the AWA in the upper Midwest, the WWE was, again, not national. They were all segmented across the country. And as Vince took over for his dad,
Yes.
and it made it bigger. Look what happened in the 90s and 2000s. You got HBK, you got Triple H jumping on a tank and going to WCW events and trying to, cause havoc. And then Hogan gets hired over, and, some other people get hired over, and there's a lot of competition. At the same time, ECW has broken away, and they're a huge bloodfest. I mean, they wrestle, but they're, the Sandman and Super Crazy. I've wrestled Super Crazy, and, to tone these guys down, you can't, because that's their game. Their game is over the top and off 20-foot, cages and cage matches and barbed wire matches. And that was an era that we see a little bit more of now in independent wrestling across Florida, across the Southeast, Georgia, Tennessee, the Southeast. I know there's some out West. I've wrestled in California, during COVID. There was very few people in the stands, but they had studio time. So as I traveled, I saw the independent guys are where the future stars are made. They have to develop a brand, develop a persona, develop a color, develop a face, because it's not just, my name is Jimmy McDowell. There's a lot of boring people out there, and they're not going to make it. And there's a lot of people that are over the top, aggressively beautiful people that can't wrestle very well, but guess who's going to make it? The guy who can sell himself, the guy who can actually be something above and beyond what they appear to be. We know that there's a lot of wrestlers that have had world championships that had 4 or 5 basic moves, but they sold themselves so well. And in independent wrestling, in baseball, you have Major League Baseball players. You have AAA, you have AA, single A. And a major leaguer gets hurt, and he gets sent down to the double or AAA or single A just to rehab his body, get back to the majors. And in wrestling, it's a lot the same way. If they get hurt or they lose a contract, they go to the independents, where they're going to be making a little bit less money, but they're going to be getting back in shape and getting the ring rust off. And now when the new contract comes time, they have an opening because they had a slot before. They know they can get back there now with WWE having the brand of, NXT underneath them, with AEW having, their under groups. NWA is becoming a big game right now. Tyrus just became the largest heavyweight, longest running champion of all time. One of my favorite friends and best people who've helped me is Dory Funk Jr., 7-time, heavyweight champion, the Briscoe era, the Funk era, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, all those guys who came through NWA and Mid South Wrestling and WCW, they lived 5 to 6 to 7 nights a week as the game.
Wow.
How can your body put up with it? They did it, but their body broke down. The new guys, they're more into nutrition. They're more into the gym. They have road trips, but it's not the same. I've taken road trips with the Barbarian and some of these other guys, that have just lived the edge and been the edge and been the game. But to be able to share those experiences are important. Had dinner a couple months ago with Big Show, and as he's teaching people in AEW a lot of the things that he knows, he can't teach them to fight because they've never had a fight. They never just beat somebody up, just gone into a brawl or a bar and beat people up. And so he said he just throws his hands up sometimes, because how can you teach somebody to fight that really doesn't know that you just beat the crap out of somebody?
Wow.
So a lot of the action has to be real action that you tone down. If you try to dumb down wrestling, it doesn't sell. You need to have the real thing and sell that and be part of the story for the night. Be the part of the story for the next week. Why are producers in wrestling? Why are bookers? Why they're there? Because they're putting a story together for the next week, month, quarter. Don't ask, just do what they say.
That's right. Absolutely. That's right. Yes, and like you mentioned, they have others sports. Then you are basically on the top. If you get injured, they're gonna send you to the minor leagues until you recover. But they have some other sports. Then, if you get injured, sometimes that's it.
Absolutely.
Your life ends right there as a professional sports a sportsman and a sportswoman, because they can happen for both. And right there, you lost your dream just because you got injured. And sometimes it's not that you got injured because you make a mistake. Was somebody else make a mistake, and that mistake ends your career.
I was in Florida about 5 years ago and took a swanton off the top rope. I kept waiting. I turned to look, and he crushed through my chest, fractured 4 ribs, fractured sternum, collapsed both my lungs. And it was a night I was going to win the heavyweight championship, and I wasn't going to give that up. They kicked me out of the ring. I came back in, won the match, but I have no air in my lungs. My lungs are collapsed. And within minutes, my family was there. They got me in the back. They got ambulance. They wanted trauma hawk. They were able to, save me. But as a dentist, that happened on a Friday night. No lungs, broken ribs, fractured sternum, Friday night. Monday morning at 8:00, I'm seeing patients. My jaw, it hurts, but I had to not give up my day job, my shoot job. I want to be able to do what I did. I go into understanding that, I can break an arm, I can break a leg. Thank goodness I haven't up to this point. I can become, a vegetable. You can get hit so hard in a way that, you end up not being able to do your profession. I'm a dentist. I do this as an amazing side job, and I love it. But when I'm doing it, I'm focused. I'm not worried about being a dentist. I just came back from Africa. I was the first American wrestler in Cameroon, Africa, and wrestled for their African heavyweight championship. And I'm looking back through some pictures, and it's a brawl. He's a huge guy, 6'5", 400 pounds. And my arms got stuck between the stairs to going into the ring and the ring. And I didn't even notice it at the time. And I pulled them out. But if the stairs had tipped over, I would have come back with 2 fractured arms, no dentistry to be done, and, no income for a short period or a long period of time. So I have to be smart. I have to know that, how long am I going to keep doing this? Most people are stopped by now. I'm still doing it.
Yes, yeah. And most people, when they see opportunities, let's see, let's talk about a couple of names here. When they see opportunities, then they basically, the same organization help them. John Cena, The Rock, Batista, they basically has opportunities when the WWE, they were basically producing some films, and they
Absolutely.
were
Randy
part
Orton,
during
Roddy
the
Piper,
order. Yes, the Miz as well.
and Funks.
They were part of the films, and what they did, they took that as a lesson learned. Okay, this opportunity, I'm gonna learn this, and you see, today's day, they do probably one, two wrestling matches
A year.
a year because they still having kind of a contract. Then they're gonna continue doing this part, but at the same time, they say, you know what? I make millions in this side. I can be in your and make some money on this other
Right.
side.
Right.
And they say, okay, I'm gonna do both, but let me
I tell you
continue in
what, though,
this one.
you've been on movie sets, and here's the thing
Yes.
about movie sets is you're acting to a camera,
Mm-hmm.
and you've only got me and my co-star, whoever I have, female lead, and there's action behind the cameras. You know, everybody's moving, the boom, the sound, the audio, but there's nothing emotional pop like walking out of the curtain and thousands of people being out there, and you just get that rush.
Yeah.
That's why those guys, you know, WWE with NXT and a lot of their, you know, they have character development, and the more you can get your name dialed into a persona, I love that name, but whatever that persona is, it can not only sell in the ring, it can sell on the movie screen, it can sell wherever you go. So it's being the guy outside the curtain and behind the camera. It's addicting.
Yes, yeah. And you know, you probably on your home, you are a little bit different, but as soon you open that door, you are in character again.
Absolutely.
Because the people need to continue seeing you the same way that they seeing you in front of the camera, or every Monday, every Friday, every day, then you have the opportunity to be on their TV. They're gonna need to see that at all the time. I remember there was an interview to Mr. Hugo Savinovich, and he was talking about situations with the Snake Roberts. And they were talking about certain things that happen, and the reason why all these people unfortunately got retired so early, because the way they were living their life in that period of time, the 90s and the 80s, then didn't continue doing wrestling, probably behind the scenes, because I see them, and I, talk to them because I
Right.
was a part of the team, and I seen and talk to them, but people can see it in front of the camera because they were their instructors for the new blood for this beautiful industry.
Absolutely. You know, the thing that they pushed in the 90s and 2000s, you know, whether it be the super ripped steroid bodies or whatever, you
Yes.
know, today, a lot of the guys are a little bit too small,
Mm-hmm.
and they hit the top rope and they do triple flips, and people buy that for a while. But what's one of the big thing that Vince and WWE is? They bring in the big guys. They bring in the big monsters. They bring in the guys who are going to be a presence,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and they can have, you know, some others that are, you know, Rey Mysterio
Correct.
fights the Big Show.
Mm-hmm.
In real life, who's going to win that fight?
The
Big
Big
Show's
Show.
going to squash his ass. Oops, so I shouldn't say that.
That's good.
But you have to be able to sell the story of the night. And that night was Ray against the Big Show. Big match.
Yes, yes. And Ray winning championships and the world heavyweight championship
Big.
against, big guys and guys that double or triple their his size.
Triple, yeah.
And you see, like, yeah, but that is what sells.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing. For example, in the several years ago, there were Lucha Underground,
Absolutely.
the famous Lucha Underground, then the Guerreros, Chavo Guerrero. He was behind that, and there were people from the WWE when they left. They basically built
Absolutely.
that era, and that was very interesting. And more interesting when you see people that were hired from the Lucha Underground. They are now
Absolutely. Big
big
boys.
big boys and big stars on the WWE and the AEW
Absolutely.
as well. All right, let's take another short commercial break. And people, thank you for allowing us to be in your dial every Monday at 8 p.m. here on GKI Radio. And thank you for allowing us to be on one of our sixth season in this station with the Beeline to Passports. And people, thank you again. We're going to take our commercial break and we'll be right back with more of Mr. Jim McDowell, the
Golden boy. Woo! He's in the house. Bam.
Let's take the break. We are back. We are back from commercial break. Great music. You're listening GKI Radio. My name is Joe Batista. I am your host. And tonight we have a special guest. This guest, he is a doctor, dentist, actor, producer, and wrestler, and also a director, Dr. Jim McDowell. Jim, we talk about the different eras of the wrestling, the some of the companies. We didn't mention TNA.
Absolutely. Big.
In TNA, a lot of people, love the TNA era as well.
The six-sided ring.
Yes,
Tough to work.
Yes,
Tough to work.
And I remember seeing some matches there. Then the guys they were using there was the championship was the ex champion, and there was in the middle. And the way to get there was jumping from one corner and use a rope just to get to the middle and try to grab that championship. That was very very interesting. Now let's talk about projects as an actor. Project that you have been completing and projects that you're looking to achieve.
The thing about wrestling is when you take a bump, you take your own bump. In a movie, if you come to a big spot where a lot of people like Tom Cruise and Arnold and these guys want to do their own thing, and Sylvester Stallone, they still have a body double. They still have somebody that looks like them for the big action scenes. In a movie, if you come to that action scene, our first thought is, I'm going to fight through it. I'm going to do it. But you can powder out, let the body double, take it. Wrestling is where you develop your character, where, I fix teeth by day and I knock them out at night. I'm a dentist. I'm the golden boy. But now I have a whole new group of community, Orlando Independent filmmakers, is where I wet my whistle, so to speak. And I started in some minor roles because I just wanted to learn about movies. I wanted to, get my feet wet, see if it was something interesting, because I knew, Cena and The Rock and a lot of the guys, did those things. And the more that I feel that I learn, the acting bug gets in your skin, it gets in your psyche, it gets in your head, and everything is a story. Something happens at a bar, something happens at a restaurant, something happens at Walmart, and you're writing it down because it's a story that you're going to use eventually. I've worked up to the point now where I've done a few main leads. There's a new movie that I'm filming 2 weeks ago, and we have the final weekend coming up, the 17th, which I think is this Sunday. It's called Voodoo, VUDU, and I'm a NASA pilot, and I crash a plane in the ocean in 2023. And when I come ashore, I'm getting beaten around by the waves, and it's 2073. So the plane crash has knocked me 50 years into the future. So, the people that are writers and put these projects together, they're coming to look for people who can sell a project, people who can be the project, people can be a face. Now they're looking for sometimes 20 and 30 years old. They're looking for 50-year-olds. They're looking for an age-specific person. And in wrestling, you got to stop in your 40s or 50s because your body's going to give out. In acting, look at Stallone. He just did another Rocky 700 or whatever it was. And he's in his, he's about 70, but he's in amazing shape. And look at Arnold. These guys do some amazing work in the business later on. So I want to, probably one of my favorite stories is the Golden Girls. Estelle Geddes is one of the four ladies, and she didn't start acting until her mid 60s.
Correct.
She started, and so I know that I got a late start in acting, but I have a face. I have the ability to learn. We know that product development in front of a camera and how to project and how to interact. It's all part of the camera and all part of that. The audio and all the boom and everything that comes on is such a huge part that we've already dealt with in wrestling, and now we're transferring it to big screen. The first movie I was ever in or around was 7 Days in Utopia with Robert Duvall and Lucas Black in the late 90s, in the mid 2000s, and it was in Texas. And so here's a huge Hollywood movie that piqued my interest, but again, I got away from it for a while. And now that I'm back in it full time, people are coming to me with roles. My main goal, my main goal is to get a movie that's noticed by Tyler Perry. If Tyler Perry, has a huge presence in Atlanta, he's taken he bought a military base from the United States government and turned it into a huge acting facility of all different kinds in the outskirts of Atlanta. So now you don't have to go to Hollywood. You can just run up, from Orlando to Atlanta is an hour flight. You can go up January 3rd through 5th. I'll be auditioning for several movies in Atlanta, but I want to be able to take my heart, my soul, my passion for dentistry, my heart, my soul, my passion for wrestling, and transfer it to my heart, my soul, my passion for movies. And it's happening. I can feel it happening all the time now.
Yeah. And let me tell you, I saw one that you did, and you bring that character alive. Whatever role that they give you, you bring that character alive. And the most important part, get that credibility for the audience. And that's the important part of the acting. The acting is basically the people out there, they're watching, they're looking for your opportunity, or the opportunity that you receive as an actor, then you do great, and the people accept the character and sometimes internalize with that
Absolutely.
character.
Yeah.
And that is what we call sell
Absolutely.
your character
Yeah.
out there. Man, that is amazing. And best luck with all these opportunities now in January. And I know, and I declare that you're gonna be great in Atlanta, and you're gonna receive a lot of opportunities for this 2024, and have
Absolutely.
being more time on that screen. Uh, Now, what are your social medias for all the audience? Then they can follow you, and also your IMDb.
Okay. On Facebook, I'm Jim McDowell. For some reason, they changed me from Jimmy. I've been Jimmy forever, and they shortened. I'm Jim McDowell. On Instagram, my son set up I have a 16-year-old son who's a freaking amazing athlete, and I'm Dr. Golden Boy DDS, Dr. Golden Boy DDS. And I have 4 daughters who are amazing, all in the health profession, and just beautiful human beings with kids and of their own. And IMDb, I'm Dr. Jimmy McDowell. Nobody else has been there.
Nobody. And basically, just you can go on the IMDb and see all these movie projects and film projects, and he is involved in the future projects that you're gonna be involved. Jimmy, let me tell you, it has been a pleasure. It's almost Christmas.
Absolutely.
It's almost Christmas, and for me, it has been a pleasure meeting you. We met several months ago
Yeah.
on the Orlando Now Organization of Independent Filmmakers event, and then we saw each other in the gala, and also I gonna post the picture. I just hold the picture because I have a picture with Jimmy, and Jimmy he was doing some wrestling stunts with me on that event, and with not only with me, with couple people.
Absolutely.
I gonna do a kind of collage of that
Absolutely.
to upload it on the social media because they were very amazing. And again, best luck on all these opportunities. Best luck on this new year. Hopefully we can work together on a film,
Absolutely.
and have many many opportunities that we can share to the world, and having fun on stage.
Jose, thank you for inviting me. I know you come from a very family driven, beautiful background, just to tell a story from Puerto Rico, and I want to wrestle there one day, so that's going to be my end to get there. But being a human, a good human, is so important. There's so many people that have that opportunity and they don't want to do it. Let's be that person who changes one life today, one life this month, one life in 2024, and we'll change the world.
Great. That was amazing, 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 amazing. Well, people, thank you for being with us in another Beeline Passports. And remember, be a leader, rock the world, inspires others with your emotions in control. Good night.
Woo! In the house, a golden boy with Jose, my friend.